Hello, everyone. This is Professor Lookcolder, and I just wanted to share a few helpful hints for this week's module. Part of our module this week, we are looking at deviance and how society kind of defines things as deviant. So, first and foremost, one of the biggest clues that helps us to figure out what is deviant is looking at our cultural norms. What does society consider a norm? Right? And in our dominant culture, these would be things that we would expect people to adhere to in terms of behavior, appearance, how we interact with one another. Those very much signify our norms. We have a lot of folk ways, which are kind of those common courtesy norms. And then we also have mores, which are those mores that have a lot of moral significance behind them. So, for example, a folk way would be something as simple as saying please and thank you when you order your Starbucks. And a more is a norm that has that moral behind it. So something along the lines of people believe it's morally wrong to lie. Now, things that are deviant very much clarify what our society as a whole believes has like a negative reaction or stigma attached to it. So a lot of people do subscribe to the notion that lying is morally wrong. However, it's not always technically quote unquote wrong. And this is where you can see an overlap with crime and deviance. Things that are technically criminal are actually against our law, right? These are norms that are codified into law. And if you were to break these norms, there is a legal sanction that would follow, right? So obviously, something like committing some kind of homicide against another person, that is against the law. A lot of people not only believe it's morally wrong to kill another person, but it is also punishable by law. However, there are other types of deviant things in our society that aren't necessarily criminal. So sometimes it could be as simple as lying to someone about how you think about them, or what your opinion might be on something. It could be uh, moral in the sense that you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so you would implement a lie to prevent hurting someone's feelings. But then on the flip side, lying can also be seen as morally wrong, and you kind of come across, a bit of a conundrum there. But in terms of deviance today, there's a lot of behaviors, appearances, various aspects in our society that can be seen as negative and generate that negative stigma. But there's also a lot of areas of deviance that have changed over time. For example, if we were to go back 3, 4, 5 decades, having a tattoo was seen as very deviant. It was just seen as something that was associated with the wrong type of crowd, quote unquote. It was seen as something that was, unflattering or just a negative appearance. But today, getting a tattoo is definitely shaped uh, in a different way in terms of how our dominant culture responds to tattoos. Tattoos are seen as more of an artistic expression. They don't have a lot of negative stigma attached to it anymore. And sometimes that deviance can be very much clarified if you were to go by generation to generation, because deviance can be particular to a certain time period or to a certain era. So it's likely that your grandparents or even your great grandparents might think of tattoos as being deviant, but you or your parents might see a tattoo as being normal or just a form of artistic expression. So again, just to conclude, deviance is something that goes against our cultural dominant norms and generates a sort of negative stigma. But they can change throughout time and they're not always stagnant. Deviance very much comes and goes with how our cultural norms go in and out and aren't always stable. I hope this video was helpful. And please let me know if you have any questions.